Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be all across the world. Today's webinar will be focused on automating JMeter and Selenium tests and run them in parallel, and it is from CA BlazeMeter. We're going to make just a few announcements before we start. By the way, my name is Jason Silverman, and I'm going to turn things over to our presenter, Kiran Makarla, in a second. But before we begin, let me just say a few things. One is that this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive the full recording by email probably by the end of this week, likely tomorrow, but just in case there's any delay, usually by the end of this week or at the very start of next week. So within the next few days, sorry. Secondly, you can ask questions, and we will reserve time for questions in the questions tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. Please try to keep the questions on the topic of excuse me, on the topic of today's webinar, as we usually get a lot of questions in these webinars, and we want to make sure that we are able to keep them focused. I can't guarantee that we're going to get to every single question, but if you do ask it, note that we do have it in the system, and we'll try to get you a response via email as soon as we can if it wasn't answered during the live broadcast. And finally, at the end of today's webinar, you will be asked us to fill out a short survey at the very end of the webinar, and we ask you very kindly to do so for a few different reasons. Firstly, it only takes 30 seconds to fill out. It's really as much of your time. Secondly, we value your feedback, and we want to find out how we can make these webinars even better in the future. Let us know if you found it valuable or if there are some things that you would have preferred. Please be honest. And finally, it will also give you a chance, if you would like, to request a follow-up session with either just yourself or with your team with BlazeMeter to discuss BlazeMeter Taurus and how we can meet your testing needs specifically. So keep an eye out for that at the end of the webinar. I will remind you one more time later about the survey. With all that said, I'm now going to turn things over to Kiran Makarla. Kiran is a principal product marketing manager at BlazeMeter, which is a CA Technologies company. Kiran, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jason. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. As Jason said, my name is Kiran Makarla. So today's topic is going to be about how you can automate both JMeter and Selenium tests, and the thing is in running them in parallel. With that said, a few things about myself. As you know, I've been in this industry for the last 18 plus years. Been an engineer and worked as an architect and product manager at Cisco and HP prior to joining CA Technologies. My passion is around continuous testing and DevOps, and I evangelize those aspects in the CA BlazeMeter. So having said that, let's set some context. So most of you might be familiar with this term, continuous testing. Continuous testing actually facilitates the delivery of a product or a release. And that's what primarily drives this Agile practice. When you practice this continuous testing, first and foremost, you're able to release a product or a feature to the market at much more faster clip and with quality baked into it. So as you can see in this chart, like if the time is on the x-axis and the time to release on this y-axis, so significantly you will be able to release more with more quality. But in order to do that, there are three things that needs to happen. First, you should be able to run this test at faster and should be able to do it more often. So faster and often actually tries to whittle down any of these quality issues within your releases pretty often. And you will also be able to leverage automation as a backbone for you to do these releases. So these three elements are critical for you to do this continuous testing, and that's how you drive agility as well as the release. So if you take a step back, in the past, this is how the software lifecycle used to be, like where you used to ideate and you used to create some analysis around what needs to be delivered. You create some designs around your ideas, and you put forward some development activities, and finally you would be able to do some testing around it. So the problem with this particular approach is testing is relegated to almost till the end of the life cycle. So what's happening here is, doesn't matter whether you are following in waterfall or Agile. Each of the activities are segregated within these various sprints, or what we call as iterations. And most of the time, the development team would start building a feature set in as part of their iteration or a sprint.